Hello, I'm Jeff Ajik. This is the latest episode of my ramblings of a continuous improvement coach. This is where I give insights, lessons, just basic things that I've, been thinking about, and try and, pass some of my knowledge and experience about lean and continuous improvement on to you. But in a very informal way that, maybe you could just watch in a few minutes and not feel like you have to go into a whole course environment where you're like a learning environment. So today I just want to talk about something that kind of happened to me a little while ago. So I'm going to back up a little bit. And before I dive into the details of the specifics of what was going on, it's nothing major, it's just kind of an observation. I want to talk a little bit about one of the things that I try to do as I help people transition into a continuous improvement culture. And what you're really trying to do is change the values of an organization. You're trying to update how they approach just the mentality of going to work and what their roles of their job is, and just a lot of ways they approach their work-life balance. All these different things come together and they create values, but values don't just happen. You can't just tell people these are the values we want you to have, and some people already have them, but they basically go through the same transition along the way, regardless of when you arrive there, there's the same basic principles. And mostly they start out with rituals. So the rituals are the repetitive routine things that you're asked to do every day. So, in the examples I use a lot, setting your alarm every night before you go to work in the morning, you don't have to care about whether or not being on time and punctuality and, all the values that go into it. You don't have to have those to set your alarm every day. If you have trouble doing that, maybe your ritual is that you set a timer on your phone or you set it manually or whatever. But the ritual is the alarm. So the alarm is the repetitive thing that happens every day that doesn't take a lot of thought going into it. Now, those rituals, because they start to get a little bit ingrained, there comes a time when the ritual fails, and then you have to make a choice about the behaviors that you'll have. So if the alarm doesn't go off, what do you do and how do you react to it? So, there's like a follow-up behavior to a ritual, and it's kind of this is just kind of under, most people understand what's going to happen. So if your alarm doesn't go off, you don't just stay home from work. You have to, go through behavior and you start thinking, why is my alarm set to be punctual? I'm going to be running a little late. I need to call in. I need to maybe skip getting my coffee in the morning. So there's some behaviors you choose to do because the rituals have been ingrained in you. And now the thing about those behaviors and those rituals, they have an attitude that goes with them. So how do you feel about those behaviors? When you're calling into work and saying, I'm going to be a little bit late, are you feeling like it's a hassle and that you're doing something that you don't want to be doing? Or do you feel like it's part of being a team and you feel like it's the right thing to do? And it goes for anything that you do that you don't want to do. You have to make a decision about how are you going to approach that, and then how do you feel about that approach? So that leads me into what I experienced. So, lean off frame here for a second. So basically, this is what a typical milk jug looks like. This isn't actually milk. This is a distilled water jug, but it's the same basic principle. You have a handle, a cap at the middle here. So what's the point of this? Well, recently we got some of these from Costco, and these are set up as a 2-pack and they're kind of wrapped together. So you're buying in bulk, but if you notice, it's flat on top so they can stack them. So it's a manufacturing thing to try to be a little bit more, cost effective. But you will not believe how many times when I went to port, I reached to the middle of this over here without even thinking. There was a habit formed, the ritual formed, where this is the ritual, the ritual of grabbing right in the middle. So why do I bring this up? Well, little things like this happen all the time in our daily life. We do so many things with the basic ritual that follows it. So like where we put our phone when we come home from work, or where we put our car keys, or which pocket you put your wallet in, and that sort of thing. And then you reach for it. If something is different, it feels really weird. And that's kind of the principle behind a lot of things I teach. When I talk about abnormal conditions, you have to set a standard for the normal condition. So, going back to this normal condition, abnormal condition. It feels strange. So with that in mind, and as you start going through all the different things I teach standardization because it creates a normal condition. I teach visual controls because it makes the abnormal condition stand out. I teach change management because when you make a change, you're going to put people kind of off their game. And, part of continuous improvement is making a lot of changes. So if you get people doing standardization and they get really comfortable with a specific way, and then you change it, you have to figure out how are you going to change that ritual without breaking the behaviors or attitudes that you've already been developing. So, like I said, just a very quick observation about how ingrained habits form. And then the degree of difficulty of breaking those habits really is based on how important something is. So with this thing, I was, pretty easy to change. I didn't feel a whole lot of discomfort having to move my hand over. So I, that's not a ritual or a standardization thing. That's very hard to break as a habit. But if it was a lot more meaningful to me in my job, if I'm doing batch manufacturing, I'm being told only make one at a time, that is a much harder ritual to break. And you have to do a lot better job at not only like just explaining it, but also kind of creating an environment where that discomfort is not like cultivated. I'm not sure exactly the right word, but you got to make it so that people get comfortable with the discomfort that comes from breaking habits. So it comes from a repetitive thing about doing it over and over and over again, and getting people very used to the feelings of change, and seeing the people around them going through change, so they're not feeling isolated in it, and creating a good way of communicating the changes and all the things that you have to do to make those changes like acceptable, and making the discomfort comfortable. And all the tools that we put in place are designed to do that. So when we talk about KPIs are designed to make it so that you know what the standard is and that you're going to be pushed, and you know how far you're going to be pushed. So when things start changing, you can kind of see what the targets are and how much change to expect. And when you talk about countermeasures, you see, how do I have a say in figuring this out, how to make it comfortable for me instead of having somebody tell me that this is the new way to do things. And Kaizen events let you have your team members have a say in coming to grips with the new reality. So all these things come from this little milk carton here. So if you kind of understand that people have habits and it's very easy to get into a habit, and we do it without even thinking. So if you go through the course of your day and you think about all the different habitual things that you do, where you put your toothpaste, where where your towel is hung up, and the order in which you get dressed, and where your clothes are put, and whether you fold them and put them away or hang them up, or all the different ways about how you proceed. And then think about what happened if something changed. If somebody rearranged your clothes, or your towel wasn't where it was supposed to be, or you had to look for your toothpaste, how the reaction, the little bit of a, it's for little things, it's not going to be a huge reaction, but the bigger things, if you can't find your car keys as you're trying to go out the door in the morning and you feel like you're going to be late for work, it's a different reaction than if your toothpaste is on the other side of the sink. So the whole point of this is understand how these habits form and how they affect the flow through your continuous improvement effort. So like I said, sometimes these are little ramblings, and I just want to kind of get you thinking about this as a concept that the habits play a giant role in continuous improvement, both in terms of creating new habits and in breaking old habits. So that's all I got today. Have a good day.